Are my ponytails uneven? Is my head uneven? Or is my camera at an angle? We may never know. Hi there, it's Gwen again. Today we're going to try something new, and I'm going to do a sew along or a sew with me or a sewing tutorial or a sewing vlog. I'm not quite sure how it's gonna go since I've never done one and I have never done this project before, but let's just dive in and see how it goes, I guess. So today, in this video, what I'd like to do is sew a very pretty vintage apron. I've really been wanting to do this project for a while, and I went fabric shopping at our lovely Goodwill locally to find some pretty fabric to make this apron.
Okay guys, let me tell you a little story. Here I was, rambling on and on, not having any idea what I was doing, just talking about different ideas for this project, the sheet I bought to use for this fabric, different aprons that I own, and what things I like and don't like about them, and yada yada yada. Little did I know that my dogs were barking so much more loudly than usual because there were workers in my yard outside. So on top of there being noises from my bird in her cage and the dogs barking, there's also leaf blower noises. Anyway, basically, this audio was unusable. But that's totally fine because I talked way too much anyway, and we really just want to get to the important parts, don't we? So if you stick it out with me, there's a little surprise waiting for you in my final reveal. I found this vintage pattern on Pinterest, of course, because that's where all great ideas come from. The one that I most wanted to copy from this was the top right red heart-shaped apron. I loved the details and the frill, but I didn't love the shape of the skirt. It's a circle skirt, but not in the way you're used to. Instead, from the front, it actually looks like a circle, so I wanted to find a different inspiration for the skirt shape. The next vintage heart apron pattern that I found on Pinterest was much more to my liking, with a real circle skirt that extended all the way around to the back. And yet, the pattern shows the weirdest closure I have ever seen for an apron. Now you have to tell me, how can you button yourself into an apron if the buttons are on your back? No, thank you. The last apron is definitely the most similar to what I ended up making, at least for the heart portion. I loved the shape, and I liked that the pointed part of the heart wasn't actually showing. So this was my plan when I went into cutting. Alas, we all know that even the best plans may not turn out like we think, especially if you are as distractible as I am. First things first, I needed to figure out what measurements I wanted for my apron. For the basics, I measured one of my existing aprons. Whilst doing so, I decided to do a gathered skirt instead of a circle skirt. I like where this apron sits on my waist and the halter, and the shape of the skirt. I found that the square part of the apron was 11 inches by 11 inches, which helped me draw my heart shape based on the 11-inch square. Then I measured anything else I might need to know for later. The length of the neck and back ties, length of the skirt, width of the straps, width of the skirt, etc., etc. For my project, I cut 2 layers of fabric in the large heart shape. I cut 4 layers of the small heart shape for the pocket. Now, why haven't I mentioned the pocket yet? You'll find out later. Then I cut 1 layer of interfacing for the large heart and 2 for the small pockets. This is important so that my heart shape stays like a heart and doesn't go limp when I wear it. I moved on to start cutting the strips for the straps. I cut the strips 3 inches wide by the length of the fabric, then shortened them later. I just really like clean edges when I refold my fabric. I also cut 2-inch strips for the halter neck ties. While I was doing this, I decided I wanted another layer on my gathered skirt because I'm indecisive and I like to have many options. Before ironing the interfacing onto my fabric, I trimmed it so that it was slightly smaller than the edges of my heart shape, so that it wouldn't bulk up the seams. I made sure that the glossy side was down and the wrong side of the fabric was up, and I pressed and held with no steam on all the pieces until they were secure. Here is where I will talk about the pocket thingy dilemma whatever. I loved the cute heart pockets in all of the patterns that I saw on Pinterest, but because I chose a sheet for my material, it was very slippery and I couldn't get the small hearts to turn smoothly inside out without tearing or without having sharp edges, so I completely abandoned them. And apparently, I was so frustrated with the small heart pockets that I forgot to film sewing the large heart, which is the heart of my project. Anyway, sew it wrong sides together except for the flat part at the bottom, which you will use to turn it right side out. The straps are indeed easy enough to sew. Sew up one side in a straight line and down the next, leaving one end opening for turning right side out. For the waist tie, I made sure to mark 5 inches out from the center on each side to leave open instead of leaving the ends open. I will use this hole to attach the heart shape to the waist tie. The absolute worst part of this project that I did not expect to be so hideously tedious was turning all the straps right side out. I need some sort of tool for this because I am never doing this way again. I was so done by the time that I was done that I actually needed a break. After some food and some sleep, it was time to get back to it. I started out by hemming all the raw edges of both layers of skirt. I used a zigzag stitch to secure the first hem, and then turned that hem under and did a nice top stitch that would show and encase all the raw edges. Next, I clipped instead of pinning both layers of skirt together and sewed a single hem to secure them into one piece. Before going any further, I decided it was time to return to those dreaded snakes that should be straps and iron them into submission. Much better. Now my mind was free to return to the more fun aspects of this project, like choosing the trim. I decided on the light ruffle lace instead of the pleated satin ribbon simply because I was feeling like bigger is better. And I stand by that decision for this project at least. Although I was very happy with the look of the trim that I chose, it was not easy to pin or to sew. It had a very thick bound edge that kept it from turning corners very easily. But I got it done anyway. I pinned one side, then sewed that, then pinned the other side and sewed it after. Also, yes, my posture whilst sewing is atrocious. Believe me, my back hates me until I finish every sewing project. The next fun part of the project was gathering the skirt down. I sewed a straight line using my longest stitch with my strongest thread. I left the tails of the thread long too for leverage while gathering. The stitch for gathering was also how I finished the top edge of the skirts, turning it under once more. Gathering from both sides made it easier for me to distribute the gathers evenly, and I used my yardstick to make sure that the skirt was gathered to the correct width. Then I tied the ends of the gathering threads to keep tension until I could attach the skirt to the waistband. I tucked the heart shape into the hole in the center of the waistband and top stitched from one end to the other, being extra careful once I got to the heart. Once the top was attached, I centered the skirt on the waistband and attached it to the back of the waistband with pins. Then I top stitched the whole thing from end to end, again being extra careful at the skirt to make sure I didn't catch any ruffles in my stitches. It's finally time for the last step. I pinned the straps in place behind the heart and stitched them down with a couple of back and forth stitches for extra security. And that was it. One last try on, and it's time for the big reveal. Are you ready? A huge shout out goes to my husband for modeling with me. He's absolutely the best.
So, overall, this project was super fun. Were there some things that I would do differently? Definitely. Of course, there's always things that we can improve on. The top stitching, where I attached the ruffle to the outside, is a little bit off. Doesn't look super pretty, but you can't tell from far away. You can only tell up close, so I'll be the only one who ever sees it. But I really appreciate you sticking around for this little, I don't know, is it a tutorial? It's not really a vlog, because I didn't talk the whole time. I did voiceover. Anyway, if you know what to call this kind of sewing video, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!